The Bite Me podcast is coming right up, and it is brought to you every week right here on YouTube by Freedom Boats. It is the best shallow running boat on the water, and there is a model perfect for you. The Chiquita 14, the Eagle 16, the Patriot 18, the Commander 21, the beautiful Warrior like I have 23, or the big boy that runs so shallow, the General 26. Chet Moore and Pooty can customize it however you'd like, and there's a dealer near you, whether it's the Boatyard in Kemah or dealerships in San Antonio, Beaumont, Corpus Christi, Port O'Connor, Houston, and Aransas Pass. Freedom Boats or freedomboatsusa.com. Welcome into the Bite Me podcast. We got a good show for you. I think it's not up to me. It's up to the guys that are always here. And this is the point in the show when I always say, that's Captain Caleb McCumber. That's Captain Scott Null. And if you're watching live on YouTube, which you can do, and of course we post this podcast by 6 p.m. Every Tuesday, you can see a semblance, some kind of semblance of Captain Dean Thomas frozen on your screen right now. But we're going to get to that in just a second. Of course, just remember, we got a lot going on this week. Fishing show time. I know Caleb's got some stories on that. He's been out there. I know Captain Scott is going to be out at the fishing show. We're all going to be out there minus Dean, and we'll explain that in just a minute. On Wednesday, tomorrow, for a live Q&A, live chop it up, live whatever you want to call it. Captain Dean won't be there. And again, I'll explain that in just a minute if you don't know already. But don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to wherever you get your podcast. Podbean is where we point you to most of the time because you can get every podcast that's ever been done by the Bite Me crew. And of course, you can also get it on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, and the Bite Me group page. If you go to the Bite Me group page, as you're listening to this podcast, you will see a picture of Captain Dean Thomas and a little bit of an explanation of what's going on. But fellas, before we get to Caleb and Scott and some great topics that we get oftentimes through that group page, the Bite Me group page, we have a message. We have a message. Less than 24 hours, by the way. Less than 24 hours from major reconstructive back surgery that Dean had in Austin, like I said, less than 24 hours ago. But the trooper that he is, he wanted to, and keep in mind before we get started, he is heavily drugged. He will reference that in this video, but
you won't be able to tell the difference.
He is heavily drugged. Let's play this video, and then we'll get going with the reaction from our guys.
All right, guys, just wanted to check in, let everybody know.
I don't know why he's laughing.
Surgery was a success. It's rebuilt my spine. Got a couple of discs, put in some artificial discs. I'm in extreme pain medicine though, but doing pretty good. Surgery yesterday, standing up today, walking the halls. Appreciate everybody, all the messages and stuff that were sent to me. Little buzzed out on the oxys and muscle relaxers and all the stuff they've been giving me, but
never would have guessed.
Looking forward to getting back with you guys next week. Back on the show, get to some
say it.
Wade fishing.
Oh, that's right, wade fishing. That's what it is.
Going to be out for about 3 months off of the boat though, but going to be on the show, talking fishing, getting back to what we love to do. Actually was really excited about this, getting this done. It was 20, maybe 30 years coming, living with pain. I'm at the Ascension Seton Medical Center here in Austin, Texas. Got an amazing neurosurgeon, took care of me, Dr. John Stokes. Yeah, it's all good. So look forward to seeing you guys next week. I should be back in Aransas Pass tomorrow. Amazing what they've done, how they can take care of people, get them fixed up, shipped out the next day. So you guys have a great show today, and we'll see you all next week.
How about that? Of course, he just arbitrarily started giggling here and there. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's what our guy did. That's what he did. But thoughts, Scott? I'll start with you because I think you had a conversation with him last night.
My first thought is, man, that's way better than he was last night.
What was last night?
Stuff last night, man.
Mm-hmm. I heard he wanted to send you a picture.
Yeah, he said, I'm gonna send you a picture of my wiener with a hose sticking out of it. They got a hose in there. Like, no thanks, Dean. And Carrie's in the background just losing it. She's no.
I actually texted Carrie before surgery, and yes, Jordan, Dean without a hat is wild. If you didn't know, you'd be blown away. Dean without a hat. But I said, you don't have to do this, but I think it'll be really funny if, like, as he's coming out of recovery, you just start recording the conversation you're having with him. Lord only knows what it could be, but Caleb, you got a little grin on your face.
You reckon they're making him wear them blue gloves because he can't quit playing with that assless gown?
Why is he wearing those?
It's either eating boogers or playing with his butt. I don't know which one it is.
I don't know. He's been really concerned about his wiener.
He has. Well, who's not? I mean, who's not concerned about their wiener? But no, that was pretty cool, dude. And when I say major surgery, like, well, you heard him describe some of it. That was major surgery.
Yeah,
And
I can tell you, I talked to him the night before, and he said, yeah, they're going to start about 9, be in there for like 2 or 3 hours.
mm-hmm.
Turns out they didn't get him in there until 10, but they didn't get him out back into a room till after 7 o'clock.
Oh,
It went way long, a lot longer
Mhm.
than they intended and what they expect.
But-
Yeah, it was pretty major deal.
mm-hmm. And that oxy and painkillers, boy, they work wonders. They absolutely do.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about it, man. It's like discs. They took 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, does that make him shorter? I mean, I don't.
Maybe taller. Maybe he's tall. Maybe he's actually taller now. Who knows?
Hey, can y'all put little inserts in there, make it a little longer, make it a little taller? That'll work.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him to take a measurement of his junk with that hose out of it and count it all.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But you know what? What a trooper. I can honestly say I don't know if I would do that video, because you never know what's going to hit you and when. But it happens. And of course, me being me, I'm always kind of thinking, like, what can our listeners, what can our captains talk about here? I don't know a fisherman. Caleb, you're the younger one, and I'm gonna start with you, because I bet you it's affecting. I don't know a fisherman that spends a lot of time on the water. Now maybe there's a previous injury, or whatever ailment that doesn't have a bad lower back. I do. I know Scott does. You don't? You don't?
Not at all.
Boy, I do. Well, you're the only one that I've met. How about you, Caleb?
Right now, as I'm sitting here, I have 3 herniated discs that are over 10 millimeters, tennis elbow, and right at this particular point, I have a strained hip flexor. So things are going well.
That's right, and you're the young one.
Things are going well. I was supposed to get, or I was supposed to in Air Bunnies. I was a candidate for back surgery years ago, but I was whenever it first started bothering me, I was about 35, and the doctor said I'm too young to do any risky surgery on. So I didn't get oxy or nothing either. This is crap.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's a daily thing. It's a daily thing.
Of course, Dean is commenting on these lists he's watching on the YouTube stream. Yes, I am taller, and it is longer. Now, there's only one way that he knows it's longer. There's only one way. You measure that sun gun.
Okay, Dean, what's up with the blue gloves? We got to know, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Why are they making you wear blue gloves?
I hope there weren't any, petroleum jellies on those things. That's for sure. But Scott, seriously, I would have thought, even from your time in the police force, you would have had some pre-existing condition that gets, worse as much fishing as you do.
No, my back's in great shape. Always has been. Don't know why. I mean, it gets sore, sore from working.
Well, yeah.
Whatever, but sore is different from what Dean's dealing with. No, I don't have any structural issues at all with that. Now my shoulders.
Yeah, with that you don't. With that you don't.
Actually, my right one is all right now. I mean, it's so much better.
That was the one that you really busted? That's
the one I tore off, yeah. And it wasn't so painful to go through that shoulder surgery. I think by getting the left one done now, it's not in great shape, but And the recovery on those shoulders, anybody that's ever had it done will tell you that's pain. Literally and figuratively, it is a pain to go through.
So what I was thinking is I do little things here and there for my back as I'm fishing. You guys may notice this whenever we're sitting around. I'm always crossing my legs. It's not to be just out. It stretches my back. I'm always crossing my leg, and it's the big all the way across your knee, and that stretches. I do it during the radio show. I do it during this podcast. You can't see it obviously, but I'll just cross my legs occasionally because it just starts tightening up. What about Caleb? Like, coping with the pain, you're on the water, it's choppy, back pain. A lot of people have those soft mats. I've never really purchased one, but I probably should. But it's something that you can deal with, but it's something you have to deal with.
Man, anytime I'm riding a vehicle, I sit with my legs crossed like a woman because I start hurting like crazy if I don't. When I go to a restaurant, I sit on one foot. I always have my knees above my hips, or else I'm toast. There's not very much getting away from it on the boat. The Shockwave seats, it's a big investment, but that's why I have them. My boat is set up to where my seats will slide up to where my knees are under the steering wheel, and I can sit up and drive it like a car. If I bend over,
I do that.
Yeah, if I bend over, I'm roasted. I can't do that. Boy, I had like a really big tip. And
shoes are my number one thing.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. Man, I'm a cheap dude. I don't have money, therefore I don't spend money, but I will spend $200 on a pair of Adidas Ultra Boost, and I will wear those $200 shoes sight casting all day long. I used to be able to get away with the barefooted or wearing like the Sims shoes, or hell, even the Grundon shoes. The Grundons really wants me to wear their shoes, and I can't do it. But I'm very particular about which shoes I wear. My heels have to be higher than my toes. Is that simple? High heels didn't work out. Everybody made fun of me, so I just had to go to running shoes. But yeah, shoes are huge. Even the flip flops I wear are very specific. But yeah, thank you for bailing me out on that one. Shoes.
Yeah, that's number one. Scott, I know you do take some precautions even though your back is right. Now, just to be comfortable. But a lot of our listeners, man, you're out in the water a lot. I don't know if you have anything to add, but it's something that you shouldn't ignore. I know that.
Yeah, for years I pulled the skiff barefoot, standing up on that platform barefoot all day, mainly because I wanted to know where that damn edge was. I was constantly feeling for that edge with my toes. But since I switched over to the Sabine, it's got the bar goes around it, and then the platform sits down inside the railing, so you know where that edge is. My last one, it was just like a waterfall. It just there was no warning. It just went off the edge. So now I started wearing shoes while I'm poling, and I noticed a big difference by the end of the day. My back's not as tired. My legs aren't as tired. It makes a big difference. And good shoes, like Kayla was talking about. I don't wear cheap stuff.
Don't ever fish with Pat Gardner. That's my number one.
Because you'll wait forever.
16 hours of waiting doesn't work for me. He caught a bunch of big fish yesterday, though.
Well, I'm listening.
Yeah, that's the stake he caught.
That's it.
You know him. Hey man, driving to Dallas, dude. It was on fire all 4 days. Jumbos. They were all. We didn't catch nothing under 4.5 pounds.
Dog.
Yeah, apparently it was pretty good.
Yeah, that dog. Let me ask you guys this though, because you heard it in the video if you were listening earlier. Dean, they're recommending 3 months. 3 months off the boat. Now, I don't know if that means you can't fish. He said something about wade fishing, but of course he was loopy. So 3 months, Scott?
I would imagine that's probably right. I mean, they put some new disc in there. I don't think they want them to move around, and bouncing in a boat is the absolute worst. I mean, they took me off the boat on my shoulder for what? I was right at.
It's at least 2, wasn't it?
I think it was 9 months.
9 months?
Yeah, I think it was about 9 months before I got back on the boat. My main reason was they didn't want me to, as the boat shifts and you just reach up and grab something. And they said if I just reached up and grabbed something with my right arm, trying to balance myself, that I'd tear it all loose again. and they were pretty serious about that.
Well, and the other thing is you go through all this pain and the surgery and the time. I mean, why would you want to screw that up just because you're getting little, happy feet, to go out on the water?
And what she told me when I was like, yeah, whatever, that I can handle that. And she said, let me tell you, if you go out there and screw around and tear up my work,
Exactly.
I got nothing left to work with, and we're gonna have to use a cadaver
Mm-hmm.
and take a tendon out of cadaver and extend your tendon, and then you're gonna be out for 24 months.
Jeez.
No ifs, ands, or buts. 24 months.
Mm-hmm. That'll
That
catch your attention.
Got my attention.
Like Glenn says, he had the same surgery twice, but in his neck, and they told him 6 months because the vibration can loosen the screws at the bone, and so maybe that's part of it.
Loctite in there.
Say what?
I mean, can't they put a little Loctite in there?
Yeah, do that. Do that. But 3 months, I don't know. I'd like to think you can beat that, but you don't want to mess with it too much, Oh, I'm sorry, Caleb. I thought you had something to say.
Oh, no, I'm not 100% sure what the question was. It didn't line up with the rundown, so I just checked out and started texting people on the side over here.
All right. Well, this will line up with the rundown because we were talking earlier. We got a post about some of the little things that you probably don't want to skip when you're fishing, and it's a perfect tie-in. And we'll get specifically to the fishing show tomorrow, but a lot of these little things. A lot of people, you're on the boat, you're anxious, you want to start casting, you want to start fishing, and you skip the little steps. So I said, you know what? That's something that the boys I know are going to have some good opinions on, some strong feelings on, because none of these things are that hard. They're just a little bit extra time. And the ones that were asked of me about things that you want to do, it came from the fella that I think he had like a 24-inch trout, posted it, but he had the treble hooks on the corky. Did y'all see that post?
Yeah.
And said, man, I was just heartbroken about it. Nothing you can do. He did the right thing. He put the fish back in the water, but there was no way that fish was going to make it. And so the question came up, why didn't you just change them out to single drop hooks? And I get it. We're all eager, Caleb. We're all anxious, but that's one of the things. I sit, like, when I'm not fishing, I'm either talking about fishing or thinking about fishing or whatever. I'll sit watching a game or watching TV, and I'll have 6 or 8 lures in front of me on a little table, and I'm just changing those hooks out. It's not hard. You just got to commit to it. Otherwise, stuff like that can happen.
I don't. I still don't fish single hooks. So the hook
really?
factor. No, I don't. I throw treble hooks. And man, I could be full of crap, but I'm gonna say in my entire career there might have been 2 fish that didn't make it because of a treble hook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty quick on the hook set. Now
Yeah.
I had one the other day that I killed with a single hook, but every once in a while you get that one that just won't open their mouth and you got to pry it open.
Yeah.
And when they have their mouth shut, they're just swallowing like crazy. And that sucker got the hook down in her little. I call it the throat butthole. I don't really know what that thing's called, but it got the hook down in there. Man, little things that I don't do like I should, but I did the other day and I was proud of myself.
So you're that guy.
Well, retying, that's my thing. I don't like to retie, but when I was fishing with Charlie, we were catching some good trout and I was pretty fuzzed up from redfish. And I said, you know what? I'm going to stop right here. Everything looks all right. I'm going to retie so that if I catch that big one, it doesn't break off. We ended up catching one close to 7, and maybe it would have, maybe it wouldn't have. But retying, before I do it almost every 2 or 3 hours on tournament day. But just that little bit of fuzz can run your day. I mean, yeah. I can shift gears on this whole conversation, though. I don't know if Scott, do you want me to bail you out, or do you have like little things to talk about, or can we make it up?
Well, so hold that thought, Caleb, because I wanted to ask Scott about this as well, because Tyler says on the YouTube stream here, we don't have that free time luxury, John. You think I do? Ask these guys about my schedule. Ask these guys what I'm doing on a weekly basis. No,
Walking
you do.
around filming Bourbon Street, talking about how crazy it is. That's how busy you are.
That's time consuming, buddy. That's time consuming. Y'all know my schedule with 2 podcasts and a little small company and my regular daily show and
It's tough.
and all that stuff. I love it and I do it. But Scott, you got the time. It's just a little bit of time.
The time's there. The main thing is having it set up so that it's easy to do. Yeah, having a workbench that's got a box, one of your tackle boxes. It's got all the little bits and pieces you need. You know, the treble hook pliers that make it easy. Not treble hook, the split ring pliers that we've talked about before that make it real easy to do it. I've got those in my workbench, along with a whole box full of hooks and split rings, and they're in the first drawer right underneath the workbench, so that you can actually do it quickly, and it doesn't get in the way. It's not, don't let it pile up. I've done that in the past, where I've just thrown old lures in a box and said, "Oh, I'll get to them. And then when you get to them, there's 50 lures in there. That's when you go, "Ah, crap, I don't have time for that." But if it's just, a handful that you've noticed the hooks are straightened out, or you had to bend the hook straight back 2 or 3 times during the day, that hook's done. You need to go ahead and replace that hook. So if you've got everything sitting there, it just makes it so much more likely that you'll get it actually done. But the other big one was, like Caleb hit on at the end, was retying. I'm a stickler about it, especially on the tarpon. I get guys all the time, they've had 2 or 3 good tarpon bites and they don't want to stop because the bite just started, and they've jumped them, they got off, whatever, they're back to cast. And I say, "Hey man, you want to check that leader and feel that leader for about 6 inches up from the hook." And when they'll stop and do it, they go, "Oh man, it's all chewed up." Tarpon will chew the hell out of a leader real quick. And anytime that leader's got nicks and cuts in it, it's not near as strong as it says on the package.
Just one little nick on it. But Caleb, go ahead and finish what you were going to add.
Yeah, Scott highlighted my other toxic trait, and that's waiting with my waiting box and having 4 corkies and one of them having acceptable hooks on it. Don't get me wrong, I'll fish with a rusty hook all day because I'm that damn shameless. But it'd probably be better if I didn't have a junk hook on there. And my thing is, I go in, so I have considerable amounts of time between wade trips because 3 herniated discs, tennis elbow, all that stuff. And so I can rinse them off and do everything and go set them back. But if one of them didn't get rinsed good, it's going to be a rusty mess when I get out there. And that would be something that would be easy to do, is open up my wading box the night before and change some hooks out. Like Scott said, if you carry whatever split ring, whatever hooks you use. I use number 4 VMC round bend trebles. You can buy huge boxes of them. Keep those and some split ring pliers in your tackle backs on your boat and your console, whatever. It's easy to change them. It takes 25, 30 seconds to lure, but I don't.
Well, maybe it takes you 25 or 30 seconds. It takes me a little longer than that sometimes. Sometimes I get it and I'm like, "Oh, I can't get it out of there." But there is a trick to it, and you'll get the hang of it when you do it.
He was just talking about with the rusty lures. Back when I threw a lot of hard baits, and these days I'm throwing a jig head. If it gets rusty, I chunk it. But and I'm not that worried about it. But when I was throwing a lot more top waters on a regular basis, and any of the hard lures that had, you're constantly looking in your tackle box going, "Man, where'd that rust come from?"
Yeah.
And something I did for a while, and I should get back to it. I took the big pretzel jars when you buy.
That's what I have.
The Costco.
That's what I use. Yeah.
Fill it full of Windex. Put Windex in it, or the Real Clean, that blue Real Clean that we get.
Yeah.
Put that in there, mix a little water in it, so it doesn't cost so much to fill that sucker up. Throw your used lures in that throughout the day. As you get done with them, chunk them in there, and then at the end of the day, you pull them out. You don't even have to rinse them off. There's chemicals in there that cut through that salt, clean it up really good. and when I was doing that on a regular basis, I didn't have any rust at all. But
Yeah, that's exactly what I do.
I kind of got
Yeah.
away from it because I throw a lot more soft plastics
Look
now.
at Caleb.
Look at this. They're all so perfect. Just so y'all look, I dropped one. Just so y'all
Caleb,
know. I
Caleb
put a
showing us
YouTube
all his-
short about using salt away a long time ago, and I'm not full of crap. It worked.
It
I don't have a
does.
rusty hook in there.
Not in this case. You're not full of crap.
Look, not even a rusty jig head. I mean, this is big, y'all. Y'all, this seems normal.
No, for you that's big.
This
For you,
is
that's
big. This is big.
Yeah.
I use
Um,
tennis ball, the
cans, the
plastic
little
thing that tennis balls
plastic,
come in.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I keep one on my table at the house that I stay in when I'm guiding. And
Mhm.
whenever I come home and have a lure that's screwed up, I'll throw it in that tennis ball thing. And then when the tennis ball thing gets to the top, which takes about 10 lures, I'll sit there and swap them out.
Yeah.
yeah. The thing the old timers used to do, I mean, I did it way back, but just throwing them in the ice chest. Yeah, chunking your lure when you cut it off instead of
Yeah.
putting it back in the box. That's the big tip. Don't cut your lure off after fishing in salt water and throw it back into your box. Especially these new boxes that are waterproof. They got that seal on them. You throw that salty wet lure back in there, every one of them is going to get the
And the box. And the box.
Everything's going to get the old rust.
Mm-hmm.
The rule is you put them all in your cup holder. That's where they go.
So
No.
that they can rust in your cup holder.
Then your
That's
cup
why I
holder.
don't throw spoons.
I know that trick. I've seen your boats.
Yeah. Whenever I sell my boat, it's got the lures from the first time I fished in it.
Hey, I sold my boat.
Did you?
I sold my Warrior. You just reminded me. Yeah, shout out to the fellas at the boat yard, man. Yeah, I got it sold, and Chet's gonna start making my new boat. I think next week. Hell, maybe the start of this week, and it's gonna be the Bite Me edition. So I'll be sure and keep tabs on that and let people know. It's gonna have all the bells and whistles that should represent the Bite Me edition of the Freedom Warrior. But that's neither here nor there. Here's where, by the way, I Caleb doesn't do it. I've been doing it for several years. Trading out. This is always the question you get. Switching out the trebles for the single drop hooks. Again, nobody will ever know for sure, but I don't think I've ever missed a fish because it was a single drop. The hookup ratio, Scott.
It's so much safer. It's better for the fish. It's easier to unhook for most folks.
It's easier on your pants.
It's easier on anything that happens to grab it as it goes by. Like sitting in a rod holder. How many times have you been hooked in the shoulder? Got your shirt sleeve hung on it as you walk past it.
Mm-hmm.
It cuts down a lot of problems. And when you're guiding like we do, the fewer hooks in the boat that are flying around, the much less chance. You got two trebles there. You got 6 shots at it. You got 2 singles. You only
sometimes
got 2
3
shots.
trebles. Sometimes
3 trebles. So, and I don't think it cuts down on hookups at all. And somebody had asked about switching them out on corkies. There's no reason not to. If you use basically the same weight as you have on your trebles, you can kind of judge it by that. You can go with a slightly larger single hook on the aught size versus or the size of the hook, and then you're not affecting the action of the lure at all.
No, I've done that as well. I don't throw as many corkies as I did when I was fishing in Matagorda, but yeah, I used to do the same thing there. The other thing is, and this may not apply as much to Caleb and Scott and Dean for that matter, as it does to me and a lot of our listeners, because y'all are on the water. You probably get tired of changing stuff out, of cleaning the lures and all that. But I enjoy piddling around, with my fishing stuff. Scott, I've seen you do it. I know you still like to do it, but it might get a little irritating at times because as much as you guys do. But I enjoy. It's Tuesday, it's Wednesday. I'm watching TV, put my stuff there, whether it's changing out the hooks or some of these other little things, these little steps that came to mind. You mentioned retying, Caleb. The other one that I am not nearly as good at, because I just like to have as few things between me and the fish as possible. And maybe I have missed some fish on this one. I don't know. I just don't do it as much, is tying leaders on all my lures. Like Caleb, how are you with terms of leaders with plastic? To me, it's almost case depending on what I'm throwing. like plastics versus corkies versus top waters, having that leader?
If I tie a leader on, I'm gonna do it right as I start fishing. I can tie one in 15, 20 seconds at most. It takes me longer to get the leader line out of my pocket than to tie it. That's probably not something I'm gonna tie the night before. Way back when we were fishing the legends and stuff like that, and I wanted to make sure that leader knot was perfect and wasn't gonna lose a fish or something, I would tie it the night before. But back then we were using the FG knot, and that was a very cantankerous little knot. I still think it sucks for inshore. I think offshore it really, really shines, but inshore I think it sucks.
Yeah, you're reversed there.
Okay. Look, it just sucks
Ass
everywhere.
backwards is what they call it.
It sucks everywhere. I was trying to give it some kind of credit. It sucks everywhere. It's a pain in the ass to tie. It comes untied. I mean, no.
So what are you tying?
Scott's being defensive because he showed me the FG knot, and it's pretty. It's cute. It looks good when it's new. But I've been sitting there holding a lure like this, looking at it, and the knot just comes untied and it falls in the water. And you say that I tied it incorrectly, but I caught about 25 fish on it before that happened. No, it sucks.
Now we all know. Do you think Caleb paid attention when I taught him how to tie the knot?
Well, you don't ask me. You may know. Although I will give Caleb credit. He did a little video for us on this page about tying some knots, and that was excellent.
Excellent, he said, Scott. Excellent.
But you did the uni, didn't you?
No, I use one. It's called a surgeon's knot, I believe it is.
That's right. That's right. It was. Yeah, it was.
But okay. My knot, you don't have to pay that much attention to learn how to use. Yours, like, you got to hold your mouth, and then you put the rod over there, and you hold it in your teeth, and then you go back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and then you take a half it, and you just spit on it. And then you probably want to add some super glue. That'd probably make it better. This knot's great, though. You're going to love it.
Actually, I've never heard a better description of how to tie it.
FG knot, me, not friends.
I can say on the FG, on inshore stuff, 12 to 16, 20-pound leader, I've never had one come undone on me. But on the big stuff, that 60 and 80 pound, it sucks.
I would think that the braid, the way that knot, because it's a giant Chinese handcuff is what it is. And I would think on a bigger leader, it would dig in and be better than the smaller leader.
On that hard fluorocarbon, on those 60 and 80 pound fluorocarbon, I've tied that knot and tied it as tight as I can, pull and pull and pull on it. Like wrap a handle around either side and pull on it just to make sure it really cinches down. And then I cut it off just out of curiosity. And there are no grooves whatsoever in that leader. It doesn't bite into that big, thick, heavy stuff.
The FG is really good when it's new, but if the tag gets loose at all, the whole thing just goes away.
Well, I back to my point, and I'm not necessarily proud to say this, but I don't feel like I'm missing any fish. I don't ever put a leader on my soft plastics. Right to the jig head, right to the jig head. Charlie
Paradosky throws a leader all the time, and he said, "Well, this is how I learned. This is what I'm confident in." I said, "Well, I was learned without one, and I'm confident in." We were catching the same amount of fish.
Yeah,
but you start playing with snook, tarpon. I guess you could say bull reds. They got big old teeth. I still run straight 50 to those suckers. There's fish that need leader. There's days on the water that you're throwing a ton of top water and a ton of quirky or something that leader's just going to make your life better. Choose whatever knot you want. I don't care what knot you choose. I'm going to judge you if you choose an FG, but choose whichever one you want.
I will say top waters probably 50% of I'm just being honest here. I'd like to say 100%. 50% of the time I've got a leader. It's more for action, especially corkies as well. I'll put a leader on there. It's mostly for action than hook ratio.
You don't need it for action though, because braid is so soft. Braid is, if not just as good, almost as good as a loop knot. But when you tie a leader, then you need the loop knot because the leader's stiff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do whatever people.
Well, you're making me feel better because I'm bad at it.
Well, earlier you raised the question, the little things that you should do before fishing, right?
Yeah, I got a couple more, but go ahead.
And people get so hung up on what they think are the big things. I want to make it to my perfect spot. I want to have this. I want to do that. And what they consider the little things are the big things. You know, how are you set up today? What weight jig head are you throwing? What's the weather? Stuff like that. And that's where I was going with that earlier. Is the little things that you should do are quite often the big things, and people don't think of it that way.
That's the whole point of this topic. Scott, what do you have in terms of other little things? He just mentioned one, and that is the weight of the jig head. That we'll get back to that. But Scott, I don't know if you have anything. Sometimes the weight of the jig head, it seems like what's the difference between an eighth and a quarter? Well, sometimes it's a big difference.
I mean, back in the day, the lightest we could get was a quarter. You know,
Yeah.
That when we first started using jigs, a quarter was as light as you could get. We took files and filed a bunch of lead off of it to make them lighter to fish them in shallower water. I mean, that's how the Mansfield Mauler came to be. It was because there was only quarter-ounce jig heads, and you throw quarter-ounce jig heads in a foot of water with a foot of grass underneath it, and you were just screwed because it was going to dive. You couldn't work it fast enough to get it out of that grass, and that's where those came from. But yeah, I mean, shaving those jig heads, that was a little thing that we did, but it made a big difference.
Here's another one, and maybe you guys haven't thought of this very much, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but in the last few years, whatever, decade plus, that we've gotten more and more paddle tails, and you don't have to work the jig as much, Caleb. I've found, because you're generally just reeling, the pace of your the weight of the jig head, which we're talking about, but also the pace that the speed with which you're reeling keeps it right above the grass, or else you're screwed in the grass, or it's too high. Like how fast you're reeling makes a big difference. That's a little thing. Doesn't matter where you're fishing, but it could make a big difference.
The pace of how you're reeling it, the action you're putting on it, how far are you off the deck of the boat? Are you standing on your nose of the boat and your rod tip needs to be up in the air? Are you standing elevated on the front of your boat and your rod tip needs to be down a little bit just to keep it off of the grass? Like there's a bunch of little subtleties in the game,
or shell, or whatever it may be. You want it to maybe bump that shell but not get stuck.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I go fish with Dean, because I don't fish a lot of grass up here, so when I go fish with Dean, it takes me about 5 or 10 casts to get dialed in on the cadence of the way I work my rod, or am I straight retrieving and keeping my rod, at 45 degrees at a certain speed to stay off the grass. There's a bunch of little things that can make your life easier, no doubt.
Well, the rod angle, like when you're working in top water, when you're standing on the bow of a boat, you chunk it way out there. You start off with it up because because of the angle to your lure. But as I get it closer, I start dropping the rod tip down, and by the time it's at the boat, the rod tip's almost on the water. I see people all the time working it all the way to the boat with the rod tip
straight up. Yeah,
and the nose of the thing's just coming out of the water. It's not walking.
It stops walking whenever they get the wind knot.
Yeah. But
Scott, go ahead, Scott.
The nose isn't pushing water anymore, so you're dragging the nose of the lure out of the water.
Well, I just had this text exchange with you, Scott, because I'm getting a new sawgrass rod, which, of course, just so everybody knows, we always talk about, like, we don't endorse it unless we use it. Dude, I am so sold on those rods. We're going to see them out at the fishing show, I'm sure. But I was talking to you, Scott, about, I'm one of those guys that likes to throw a lily a lot. And especially now that I'm further south on the grass and stuff with the lily, and it was a fad about 15 years ago. Some people still use them. I still always use them. I love that lure. But you tend to have to keep your rod down, tip down, because you're reeling it fast and you get the action. Boy, I didn't like the way that looked on the video, but I was
he even kind of narrated it.
I was getting the action. Don't cut that up. Anyway, so I said, yeah, I want another sawgrass, Scott, and Collins is gonna get one for me, and maybe I'll even get it at the fishing show. But I said, I'd like to go as short as possible, because when you're with the rod tip down, Scott, and you want it to be working for you as long as possible.
That's another one. Rod length. That's a small thing, but it can be a big deal. If you're down south and you want to cover a lot of water, a longer rod, you're going to cast further. If you're sight casting, I like a little shorter rod. You got a little more control with it. That's those little things over time. You you get used to it. You get used to just throwing the old 7-foot rod, and you don't think that there's a difference. When you and I first started, I got you onto a stiffer rod for throwing a top water.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you
And
did. I spent 35 years throwing a flippier rod, and then you
Yep.
convinced me how much easier it would be, and that's actually kind of how I fell in love with the sawgrass.
Well, it changes. I mean, it changes how the lure moves, so you gotta adjust. If you've been using a whippy rod forever, but you go to that stiffer rod, you don't have to move the rod tip as much to get the same action out of the lure. That burn that you get in your forearm when you're throwing a whippy rod, throwing a top water, goes away. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
It's funny y'all bring that up because at the boat show, me and Randy Nickerson sat down and I have him building me a 6-foot, pretty heavy sight casting rod. And Scott's going to be proud of me. I'm ordering a left-handed reel where I can sight cast my right hand and reel with my left. And I think it sounds cool. I think that I'm going to take the dude off the tower beside me when I set the hook with my right hand. I don't think this is a good idea. But I have a 6-foot rod coming with a left-handed reel on it, and we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, no, the rod length makes a difference. Y'all think about other little. I love this topic, and we're going on it because there's several different layers to it. But I had two other things when you're on the water that to me are little things that, frankly, I've caught more fish because you do the little step, the little extra thing. A lot of times you're out there, and let's say you're drifting. And shout out to Dean. He's not going to be on the water for 3 months, so buy the shootout because it's a great drift sock. I can't tell you how many times people just keep drifting, and it's just too fast. And it may not be real windy, but for whatever reason, tide and wind at your back at the same time, Caleb, and they just refuse to get off the deck, go to the back of the boat, get a drift sock or two, tie them, and put them out there. If you just do that, you could catch more fish.
Real faster, bro.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to.
Funny rodeo story. I was a professional header, so I roped the horns on the cow for those of y'all that talk like that. But I used a real stiff rope, and that wasn't traditional. Everybody used really soft ones. And somebody asked me one day, they're like, "Man, how do you use that?" I said, "I just swing it harder." They're like, "How do you keep it?" Because there's certain things that happen where it'll bounce off of the horns. So he's like, "Well, how do you keep them bounce off?" Like, I throw it harder. And that was just what was going through my head when I was just picturing you screaming ass across the flat, just real faster, John. What are we gonna do here? I do want to check out those shootouts. So I wish I got a box of them to have in the booth at the fishing show, but they look awesome. The thing and shameless plug for the high guy, but the thing that I hate about drift socks is pulling that parachute in and dumping all the water out of it and pulling on the boat and soaking my feet and all that. And man, Dean looks like he came up with something there. It's pretty stinking neat. I haven't got my hands on one though.
Well, let me make a call or a text because his buddy that he's working with is here in Houston, so maybe I'll grab a couple at some point because they're worth it. But Scott, any other like little bitty things that it's just that extra step? One thing that I also was thinking about is I tend to do it, but I don't do it as much anymore because I know it makes a difference. Go ahead and switch that jig head to a weedless jig head. You sometimes I don't want to tie and cut this and screw the plastic into the thing and all that. Dude, it's a little thing, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah, going that route, having the weedless in the right situation, it saved. You may take a few minutes or a few seconds there to change it out, but think all the time you're spending pulling grass off of that damn hook.
Exactly.
That's quite a big difference. One of the others I just kind of crossed my mind because it happened to me a while back. Check the eyes on your rod before you head out.
Well, I want to hear the story.
Just do a little quick inspection. No, it happens all the time, and got a little nick in there. I had Chris that works with Collins up there, and he was throwing for tarpon with me, and as he was casting, I looked, and as he reeled in, I was looking at his leader. As I always just kind of glance across at somebody's leader and make sure it's looking good, and it looked like a potato peeler was on there. There was these little curlicues on his leader as he reeled up. And I was like, "What the hell is that?" I thought it was just something, from the water got on there, a little piece of
Mhm.
grass or something, because he was far enough away from me I could see it that well. And then I look again, and it's got a couple more of them on there. I was like, we need to check that. And sure enough, there was a little nick in the eye guide, and that was it, on the tip. And it was just enough that it was weakening that leader on every cast.
Yeah, sometimes they'll get little grooves in them, and you can't see them, and they'll cut your braid almost every time you hook up. As soon as it gets
Mhm.
in that groove, it's gone. And guys like me that fight a lot of bulls, or even my friends that just throw corkies over and over and over and over. After a couple of years, they'll develop a little groove in that thing. And the way that we found them was sticking a Q-tip in it and like spinning it, and it would
Oh,
grab.
yeah.
Now.
And you can see the it kind of
Yep.
catches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the old way was pantyhose.
Mm-hmm.
Take your wife's old
What are
pantyhose.
pantyhose?
How terrible.
Pantyhose they had runs in them already. Take an old pair, slide that through there.
A pantyhose has taken on a whole different definition over the past couple of years. I hate that I come up with crap like this off the top of my head.
Lord, how did that get into your mind? How did
I
you go
hate that
there?
I hate it just happens like that.
It just pops in here. Yeah, he does. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, all these little things. I thought it would be a fun topic, and I know this is going to be fun. And really, it was kind of a partial boat ramp confessional, but he was also very proud of himself. I got this message on the lengths that you've gone to hide your fishing expenses from your significant other. So I don't know if you guys got this message or not. So, but I got a message about a dude talking about he would, he want, like everybody, likes to buy stuff. What does Dean say? Fishermen should have a sign on their forehead that says "I buy shit." But his wife was giving him a hard time, so he would always make the grocery store run, whatever day it was. And as he's buying all the groceries, filling out her list, he would add like a $5, $10, sometimes $25 gift card and just kind of hide it in the middle of the receipt. And so this is brilliant, by the way. So he would yeah, I'll go get the groceries. I'll get them for you. So he would go get this $200, $300 worth of groceries or whatever it is, and right in the middle there every time was like a little gift card. So he had this stack of gift cards after
$20 Bass Pro Shop.
that would just go to whether it was a Visa card or a Bass Pro Shop or whatever, but they all have both of those. So he'd have $300-$400 worth of gift cards at some point. Ultimately, though, he did get caught, but not until he filled his tackle box pretty good. But I thought that was brilliant.
Elon caught him, didn't he? Was it Elon?
It might have been Elon. I think it was his wife, unless his wife's name is Elon. But I thought that was brilliant. But I'm not going to say I haven't hidden a couple things here and there, but I thought that was fantastic.
I'm pretty fortunate that crap just comes to the door these days. But another note, I was just telling somebody yesterday, we're talking about, hiding expenses from the wife. I'm pretty sure my wife doesn't even know how to log into the bank account, because I can be sitting there going, good Lord, I hope we can afford to feed the fish this month. And my wife will get home, be like, where you been? She's like, oh, I got my lashes done and my nails and my hair. So I don't think she looks at our account. She'd be way more skeptical of going and getting that kind of stuff done.
Oh, well, that's the thing. And I don't really, I'm not going to say I've never hidden something, maybe most recently a baits reel, but
if there's a tip to give anyone, you would think, here's what you would think: that I need to go home, be sure and don't put it on the kitchen counter, be sure don't put it on the catch-all table. Leave all your crap there all the time. And then when something else is there, that's just normal. This is what
In other words,
I mean.
Don't clean up.
This is
what
how
you're
I
saying.
work. This is how I operate.
Stay unorganized.
Yeah. I could go and buy 2 pistols and 3 reels right now and leave them on the kitchen counter. And she ain't going to say where they should come from. She's going to say, how many times I told you to put this up?
Oh, sorry.
And then you put it up and she's happy.
Yeah.
It's not as brilliant as buying Bass Pro Shop cards at Kroger, but it works.
Scott, I know a lot of stuff comes to your door too, but you've got to have some stories, or at least a story on that, because Camille actually supports you in 100%, and Jan is doing that now too. But still, the only thing that frustrates me is she's like kind of like what Caleb is saying. She goes to whatever store and says, "Yeah, I picked this up. It just looked cute." And I'm like, if I said that about a Boga grip, I picked up this Boga grip. It just looked cute.
You got to clip it on something.
Yeah. But what do you got, Scott?
Really nothing, because Camille's been in the fishing business for so damn long. I can't slide anything past her. I mean, she knows everything we got.
Yeah.
And
She knows what it costs.
Yeah, that's worse.
My wife has no idea what a baits reel is worth. Not a clue.
Yeah.
Now, and when she was working at Fish Tackle Unlimited upstairs, the word got back really quick when I was downstairs. So it wasn't like I could slide in there and go get something real quick.
Yeah. I like
one time I went shopping at FTU and Camille got called and said Scott was there, and Scott wasn't even there. Ain't that right, Scott?
Yeah, that's right.
I wonder why.
And the other way that you can do it is the hard way and become a fishing guide.
Yeah.
Then you can get up. Then you can just your expense and everything. So it's
hey. Then she's wondering where the grocery money is.
You have to have it though.
Yeah,
I have to do my job.
It ain't like it's more affordable now or anything.
Yeah, this is true.
It just got worse.
I'm just wondering how many of our listeners on the YouTube stream here on podcast are going to be like, huh, $5 gift card, huh? I might have to start going to the grocery store. 25 if you're feeling bold, 15, 10, whatever it might be. It's like Glenn saying, my wife's listening is giving me the side eye right now, asking questions. Like, wait a minute. Those eggs I know the eggs are expensive, but they're not $78 for a dozen.
Easy.
You got to use that technique on the big trips. You can't. I mean, the little milk and eggs run ain't gonna work.
Exactly.
Putting a $10 gift certificate in there.
If only they made Academy brand bread, then the line item would just say Academy, $25.
That'd be pretty sweet. So this podcast is going to be posting today, and tomorrow we're going to be at the fishing show. So right now, for those who are watching live, we're going to have several things to talk about. Obviously, Dean's not going to be there, but Caleb and Scott will. You can go to the Angler U booth. You can go to the Anglers Anonymous booth, and you can pick up, talk to Caleb, talk to Mike, get all your fishing stuff. But we will also have OG sauce there. If you want to pick some up, I'll bring that to you tomorrow, Caleb, at the fishing show. But right now, hit us with your questions if you're watching live. That I'm going to write down, and we will. If you can't make it to the show, we want you there. But if you can't make it to the show, I'm going to write down these questions, and that'll be some of the stuff that we get to tomorrow. And will be on next week's podcast. But regarding the fishing show, both you guys are going to be there. Scott, what days are you going to be there?
Wednesday through Saturday.
Okay, so you can do pretty much the whole thing. And Caleb, every day.
All of them.
And what can we expect from Angler U? I want to get into some other stuff, but I want to help you out here in terms of getting people the message.
Well, so at Angler U, if you haven't signed up yet, every day we're doing a drawing. I'm going to have baits reels, Laguna rods, Waterloo rods, turtle boxes and stuff every day. So everybody that signs up on Wednesday, there's a drawing for just them on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so on. I also have two 32-inch touchscreen displays that look like a phone, and you can check out the app and play with it on there. I mean, guys, my electricity is probably going to get cut off this week. Like, let's come and support a good cause. Kay got a black eye at school today. I mean, it just... little Timmy things are happening, and without your $20, I don't think we can get the whiskers back for the homeless kittens.
And JoJo needs a new toy.
JoJo needs a new toy.
JoJo needs a new toy.
One of my contributors, I just found out through you and Scott that I don't have him for the next 3 months. So, I mean, tight times over there.
You'll get it. But C.A. Richardson's going to be at the show wandering around, huh?
C.A. told me he's going to be there tomorrow wandering around. Find him, tell him you found him on however YouTube or whatever. He's a great guy, loves to talk. If he's not in my booth, don't keep him too busy because I'm trying to get him back over to my booth. But if he's in my booth, hammer him.
Yeah.
Mark will be there.
Oh, good. I was going to text him. Yeah. So Mark will be there. I'm going to get a lot of content, not just from our little Q&A, but from people like Mark Nichols, people like Collins Illich, and obviously, many others, Mike Butler, some of the folks at Fishing Tackle Unlimited.
I'll be in the Shimano booth a good bit too. Me and Hughes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, so you got about 5 or 10 minutes here. Hit us with your questions, and I don't want a question from Caleb, because Caleb asked one question already for tomorrow. Why are the ratings always up when Caleb is on? I don't know if that's true, but hit us with your questions.
I'm talking about like PG or R, or well, I'm not talking about like actual.
I thought you meant like downloads. Which booth will have the magic cooler? I think all of them.
We're working on it. I'm trying to get one in there tomorrow. I just got to get a little help from my friends because I am loaded down.
Yeah. And so we'll be out there. Hit us with your questions. In the meantime, let's get to anything else on the fishing show before we move on, fellas.
Man, there's a lot of people there this year. This ain't a shameless plug to try to get y'all there. What we're talking tomorrow? Is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
At what time?
I just said it.
Really?
5:30 Wednesday at the fishing show.
You're supposed to say things 3 times for people to understand. The Texas Hammer knows this. But hey, now the vendor list is pretty long for the show this year. I think it's going to be a good year. There's a lot of new blood up there, that was always the complaint about the fishing shows. Like, man, it's the same thing you see year after year. I see a lot of new blood up there this year. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and all the guys that you hear on the podcast, the Wade Wright guys, Tim and Jason, going to be there. They're always, I like it. They're always wearing the Wade Wright belt as they're in their booth. It looks kind of cool.
Hey, at the boat show, they made, how you take a life jacket, turn it upside down, stick your legs through it so you can bob in the river and drink beer.
Yeah,
they have made a life jacket for that. It looks like the things the girls on the Playboy TV wear with the belt and the things on the legs. And they'd had all these chicks just walking around the show wearing these things. It was the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my life, dude. Some chick in yoga pants wearing, it looked like stormtrooper pants. Looked like stormtrooper pants is what they're wearing around.
Here's what I got. Got my life jacket right here.
I'm just picturing John bobbing. Your beer above water.
Actually, that's from my boat. I had to take all my crap out of the boat when I sold it. But
Fishing Tackle Unlimited, they'll have their usual big old booth over there. They had a video out the other day of all the rider trucks pulling out of the store. I think they had 4 or 5 rider trucks in a row.
Man,
bringing all their stuff up there. They bring the whole store to you.
No, it's cool, and you can't miss it. So keep those questions coming. Some people are going to go fishing this weekend, so we will have what would Scott do, what would Caleb do, and what would Dean do right now. But if you're going out there, hell, maybe the crowds won't be as much, but it is going to be a little bit. Look at that wind.
40. Almost 40.
Look at that wind. All right. Well, good luck with that. I'm looking at the wind conditions right now. And
Saturday you can fish from like daylight until 2, and then you can fish from 4 until dark. But good God, don't be out at 3, because it's like 9 miles an hour, 16 miles an hour, 34 miles an hour, and then back down to 11 on Saturday. What
is happening at 3 o'clock? I mean,
I don't know. Race up for it.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go wade and catch a big fish, Saturday would be my day. If the pressure's low, there's a front coming in on Sunday. Saturday would be my day if I want to go wade and catch a big fish. If I wanted to be cool and come up to the show and buy some barbecue sauce and some, I got special seasoning nobody's ever heard of. I got a bottle of it for you, John.
Oh, you were telling me about that. Yeah.
I've already got them put in like 3 stores. Buy some sawgrass rods, some Laguna rods, some Waterloo rods, and most importantly, look, when you walk in the door, I'm the first person you're going to see. You have $20. Everybody that walks in the door, I know you got $20 when you walk in.
You got $20? Bring your $20.
I know you got $20. And if you got what do you got? 27 to get Angler U and some OG sauce, John?
There you go. There you go.
Now, are you going to bring a little thing where you dip the pretzel in it? Can
I? I don't think so. I got a little display that's pretty badass. I got a little display. I'm going to give you. Put the bottles on there. I mean, you never know. I know. Saturday and Sunday I'm going to be there as well. Maybe I'll bring some little pieces of sausage or something, or buy some there. And you can try out the OG sauce while you're there.
There is a live stream tonight with Scott. Angler U at 7 tonight with Scott. Parkoff just asked that.
All right. Scott, anything to add as far as those who are going to be venturing out? Maybe they're going to the fishing show tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and then heading out to go fishing?
Yeah, just go to the show. I'm scrolling through here. Starting Thursday is ridiculous.
Thursday's 40.
Yeah.
Thursday's ridiculous.
40.
Friday is not great. Saturday, like you said, it's up and down. Who knows what the hell that's about? I've got as low as 8 and as high as 34.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that makes no sense. And then
It's a good weekend to go to the fishing show.
Then Sunday again, first thing Sunday morning, 31 gusting to 37 at 3 a.m. Yeah, that's a no-go for me.
Mm-hmm.
And 47 degrees. We got another, it's going to get chilly again. So, yeah, this never happens, guys. Never.
Have y'all peeped
when the fishing show comes and I'm tied up?
Yeah, it's a good day to be tied up. A good weekend.
Peep those numbers on Tuesday and Wednesday. 40 miles an hour due east, bro.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. And like I said, this never happens, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, if I'm booked up and I got to go to the fishing show or iCast or something like that, go ahead and plan your fishing trip during that because it's going to be ice cream conditions.
Yep.
This never happens where it's just crap during the show.
So, Carson over here is going to be stuck in Sinton, and he asked me, he said, do you have to be present if you sign up for Angler U for the daily drawings? Let's do it for Bite Me, folks. If you sign up Wednesday through Sunday, message me, Captain Caleb TV on Facebook. If you message me on Instagram, you're screwed. I won't see it. Message me on Facebook or send me a text. I'll put you in the drawing for whatever day you sign up.
Now, show your phone with your unanswered texts.
Oh, let's see.
Because texting you does not.
My numbers are good right now. It's only 82.
Look at the emails.
47 missed calls, 82 texts, 10,300. The 10,000, dude, that number is like 52,000 a while back.
I would not be able to sleep at night.
The texts were close to 300 at one point, and the calls. I think it's because I got a new phone.
Zero. I'm sure I have.
My phone only looks like that when I put on Do Not Disturb.
I'm sure I've got a few here just over the course of the show, but zero. And by the way, Fish Camp talks about, can someone do a seminar on how to fish the Galveston complex, like Texas City Dyke, Galveston Jetties, Rollover Pass, Kima? We will do that. If you remember, we did Louisiana last week. I want to get when Dean gets back, maybe week after next, we'll do a little Florida because we have so many listeners all over. Maybe a little more Louisiana, but we're definitely going to talk Galveston complex. We always do. Maybe get into some of those specifics. But Scott, the seminars are worth it alone.
Yeah,
because you will get that. You will get that.
Yeah, start look at the list. One of them I'd go to was Jimmy West. Jimmy's always got a seminar or two up there. I'd go sit and listen to him. That dude's been doing it a long time, and he knows Galveston as well as anybody I know. I haven't looked at the list, so I couldn't really tell you off the top of my head, but there's always several guys. Paul McCarcio usually does one or two. He's really good. There's some old timers that do some seminars that are really, really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
They know Galveston.
Well, terrific show. I like that. I like, guys, I know when we dig into one topic and get all into it, I like that a lot. And that was good with the little things today. Some other stuff. Get your questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to stay on after we sign off to get some questions for tomorrow, direct from Bite Me listeners. Feel free once I post the podcast usually about 6 o'clock to hit me up with some questions on the Bite Me group page. And I will post something on there as well. I'll get those questions from there as well. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. I was going to ask you what's up, but we know what's up with the podcast. I'll see both these guys tomorrow. Get well soon. What would Dean do? He would. What would Dean do? Did
I bet he's laying there in the bed right now, tapping the end of his nose, going, "It makes it tickle."
He's sitting there looking at Carrie, just contemplating life, going, "This is all right. This life is all right." That's our guy. Well, hopefully he'll get well soon. In the meantime, you guys catch him up. We'll see you tomorrow at the fishing show or this weekend. And we will talk to you next time. Nothing? Nothing.
Oh shit. No.